Coming up on episode 111 of the Behind the Back podcast, San Francisco 49ers have a big win, more injuries. What else is new? Ben gives his take on some Brandon Aiyuk talk. Obviously gives up some kicker information because of some injuries that we've already mentioned. So stay tuned for that. And Ben will give his breakdown for the Carolina Panthers game, which has a lot of fun storylines to it. Then we move on to Philadelphia and the story of the Eagles, the offense. That's what it's been. Eagles keep winning, but nobody likes the offense. What the heck is the problem? I break down what happens there. Ben and I give our takes on this whole offensive situation for the Eagles before we talk Dallas in the Dallas week. And then we talk about the Sacramento Kings. Keegan Murray makes his return on Thursday, the day this comes out. So we're really excited to see what that does for the King. Will that make a freaking difference? I mean, we are 2.5 games back from the play-in, right? We keep fighting. With that being said, we break down some good stuff, guys. So let's get it. All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Behind the Back podcast. We are your hosts. I am Marcos Conan Negrona. Beside me here, as always, is Ben, the Jed. Rets, Ben, my brother. How you doing today?
Can't lie, man. I'm above ground. That's all that matters as a Kings fan.
No, absolutely. The Kings definitely going through some stuff. And just like you guys heard in the intro, we got a lot of fun stuff to talk about. If this is your first time, welcome to the Behind the Back podcast. We appreciate you spending your time here. Got a lot of fun stuff about the Eagles, the Niners, and the Kings to go through. So with that being said, let's start in San Francisco. Niners coming off of an awesome, dominant win against the Cardinals. That must have felt good. Brock Purdy came back. So what's the vibe around San Francisco? What's some news you got to start with?
It's great, man. You know, I love Brock. The whole conversation of Mac versus Brock, I think we can kind of all put this to bed now. We saw what we needed to see. But I got to start by just saying again, like I've said it on my post games, Mac did an incredible job. I mean, this team is not above water with anybody else as a backup that has, you know, been a predecessor prior to this year. So hats off to Mac for holding it down. Just outstanding quarterback play from a backup. And he's, like I said in the post games, he's earned himself a starting role probably next year. And so let the bidding war begin for Mac Jones. Fantastic job. So stoked to have Brock Purdy back. Brock Purdy was elite on Sunday, posting that 133.5 quarterback rating. So vibes are up, man. But more injuries are on the way for the 49ers. And this is, you know, I feel like we talk about this every week. It's just a built-in part of our conversations. The unfortunate part was two of the injuries that happened were very important players to what the 49ers are doing right now. And first one is Eddy Pinero. So let's talk about that injury. Let's talk about who the 49ers just brought in. So it was Matt Gay, who was the original kicker for the Commanders, but the Commanders let him go and brought in nobody other than Jake Moody. And now we have Matt Gay on the 49ers. So I'm not sure how I feel about this signing yet, but I got kind of a theory as to why you take a kicker like this at a certain point in the season. But, you know, the thing with Matt is like, past the 50-yard line, he's not super efficient. He doesn't knock down a high rate. He's actually 7th worst in the NFL at it. He posts a 50%, essentially 50% success rate past the 50-yard line. And so we'll kind of see the positions that he's put in during this stretch. But my kind of theory on it is like the 49ers tried out a bunch of kickers this week. It could have just been the hot boot for whatever the session was. It could just be the hot boot. You know, it kind of depends, right? So why they felt like Matt was the right guy, we'll see. And hopefully, I mean, I'm sure his leg will be tested on Monday against the Panthers, which stoked for that game, and I'll break that down here in a second. But overall, it sucks to be missing Eddy because Eddy has been fantastic since coming in. He hasn't missed a field goal. It's only been those weird extra point woes that occasionally happen with him and that unit. But it's going to be tough now because you felt so confident in Eddy. Now you got to regain confidence in another kicker. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But the other name that was injured was Tatum Bethune. Tatum Bethune suffered a high ankle sprain. He's going to be out a few weeks. So it sucks because he's been fantastic as a replacement for Fred Warner. Ever since Fred went out, every game since then, Tatum Bethune has had 10 plus tackles. So he's been an awesome guy who's just stepped up into this role. It's a huge boots to fill. You're just not going to fill those, but he's done a really good job. Now, with him being injured for multiple weeks, you're looking at a guy like Curtis Robinson to kind of step up. He's been with the Niners for a couple of years, understands the system. Now you have an opportunity to kind of, earn this. And Shanny says he's been waiting and preparing for this moment for a while. So I'm excited to kind of see how Curtis Robinson steps into those shoes. It's filling shoes of shoes, right? But the 49ers just can't catch a break right now from this injury bug. And probably one of the bigger topics now, for 4 or 5 weeks has been the Brandon Aiyuk injury saga and how that's going to go down and when his practice and window's going to open up. So the question now is like, are the Niners the one taking their time or is Aiyuk taking his time? And the reason I asked that was Kyle Shanahan said recently in a response to a timeline question, Aiyuk will practice when he's fully comfortable. Sounds like Aiyuk is the one making the decision there. And I don't, you kind of, if that's the case, like even John Lynch making comments about it, being our intention or not being our intention to redshirt him this year. Like, it just seems like it's very much Brandon Aiyuk's decision, which if I'm being honest, I like that. I think you're asking a guy how you feel about your body after a severe injury. Like, if you're ready to go, we're ready to go, but it's kind of got to be on you. They have pushed Purdy back early from injury. We saw it this year, and it didn't go well. They've pushed guys back early from injuries before, and it hasn't gone well. So I think taking your time with a wide receiver like Brandon Aiyuk, who's really shifty and requires a lot of strenuous activity on his knees and any part of his body, like it makes so much sense for Brandon Aiyuk to be the one to kind of gauge the situation, let you know how he's feeling, and if things are really good to go. We'll see if that's the case. But if it is the 49ers, you could look at it from this side. He isn't necessarily needed in this stretch of football right now. Like, this wide receiver room is kind of back in business with Ricky Pearsall back, Juwan Jennings, Purdy connecting with Kittle now, Kendrick Bourne looking for at least, one more catch to make some big money incentive on his contract. So this wide receiver room is kind of taking its shape again. And so the 49ers could be looking at it from that standpoint too. It's like, we don't need to rush this back. We don't need to push him up. We're doing okay without him. So we'll see. We'll see when his practice window opens up. I wanted to kind of address that. I'm not sure what that Brandon Aiyuk contract. I don't know what that Brandon Aiyuk, injury saga kind of looks like on the outside, but I know that it's been a topic in San Francisco now for multiple weeks.
I think on the outside, we're aware for San Francisco that it is something to address, but I don't think it's on the forefront of anyone's mind right now. Well, not anyone's mind, but I think other teams got a lot going on right now. But I think for the Niners, it's an interesting spot. I was actually kind of curious of like how much did you really want Aiyuk back? I know that you've talked pretty good on Aiyuk, but I do imagine a world where like this core adding Brandon Aiyuk, that might be pretty fun. I don't see why not, So I think it would be interesting. But I was curious. I want to throw it back to you real quick. Like, how badly do you want Brandon Aiyuk back? And if you like, what if the opportunity to move him when it worked for both parties? Because Aiyuk has obviously voiced some kind of like I'd be okay either way type of thing. So like, if that were to happen, what would be okay for you to make that work?
I mean, honestly, just The biggest thing for me is I haven't seen Brandon Aiyuk as a wide receiver one. And I've been advocating that he could be a wide receiver one. At what we saw his peak be, I don't think that is his peak. But what we saw Brandon Aiyuk's peak to be in that Super Bowl run season, like that was when I was like, dude, this guy's a wide receiver one on so many teams. And so for me to see him get his bag because of this crazy hold in, hold out situation, the whole thing that went down, all that aside, all that situation aside, I want to see this guy dog it out as a wide receiver one. And so from that standpoint, like I want to see Brandon Aiyuk back on this team. I want to see what he looks like as that option and a part of this system. But at the same time, I fully understand, like, if he's not good to go, whether it's the 49ers saying it, Brandon Aiyuk, both parties, whatever, if he's not good to go, don't rush it. We'll be fine. Let's see him back as the true wide receiver, healthy wide receiver one.
I love that. Okay. No, that's good. You know what? I hope for Brandon Aiyuk's sake that he can come back and make an impact. That would be the most ideal situation for everyone, right? It's not like you didn't pay him all that money either. So it's like, I think that would be fun to at least see where it could go. And I hope that, you know what, if Aiyuk even just misses the rest of the season, if it's for his own health, I don't see why not. It gives you a good look at some of these other guys anyway. And then Kyle will always find a way to figure something out. So I think that's cool. So what other news do you have in Niners camp before we go into this game?
Nothing else from Niners camp. Let's jump right into it. So 49ers take on the Panthers on Monday Night Football. And this game has a lot of playoff positioning on the line. It's fun. Now we're kind of getting towards the end of the season. We are upon the time where all this seeding is now, it's a week to week. You're checking in. It's almost a game to game. Almost. We're not quite there. But things are shifting. And this wild NFC right now, like this is a part of the battle of the low end, but definitely a battle. So I'm stoked for this game. Panthers are 6-5, Niners are 7-4. This game and the Bears game will have the biggest impact on the Niners' playoff chances for the rest of the year. Potentially that Seahawks game as well, but those two teams especially that you're battling with. The Panthers, they got some nice young pieces. And this is a decent young football team that is coming into Levi Stadium. It's not a team that you can just chalk up as a win anymore. This isn't the same old Panthers team. I like what the Panthers are doing, and I think that this could be a bit of a battle, and I'm going to get into kind of why I think that. But I want to get your take on the Panthers recently. I mean, the success kind of budding.
I think for the Panthers, they're one of those teams where going into the season, I was like, they had some potential, and a lot of this obviously falls on Bryce. I think their defense has been awesome. Rico Dowdle, obviously the story of the year for them, so he's had an awesome season. But Bryce, obviously coming off of an insane game last week where he was, coming in and out of injury. So you like what they have scrappiness wise, and Dave Canales, I think, is a good coach. I think they've obviously just needed to get more pieces around them, and they're figuring things out. And I like some of the guys. Tetaroa McMillan was obviously Arizona guy. I love to see him succeed. I was excited for all that. So I think this was going to be a really good game going into it, especially with the way the Panthers have been playing. I think the Panthers, everyone was kind of at the beginning of the season, they're like, oh, this team might not be that good. And then they came back and have come up in clutch in some really big spots against some really good teams. So I think it's they're definitely, like you said, not an easy out anymore.
100%. So let's kind of get into this game and do a little bit of a breakdown. Carolina does have a few injuries going on right now. The injuries, the biggest one to look out for is Xavier Legette. He has a questionable status right now because of his hip. He says he feels like he should be good to go Monday to play. So, and again, it's a longer week and a longer rest. So I think he'll probably be good to go. And again, with the implications on the line, expect him to go. They got Trevin Wallace. He's their one of their linebackers. He's questionable with the shoulder. Lathan Ransom is safety. He's questionable with the hand. And then Christian Roseboom is questionable at the linebacker position with a hamstring. So they got a few injuries, but I mean, these injuries to Tatum Bethune on the 49ers and now this Eddy Pinero thing, this is another linebacker. This is now your special teams guy who you felt so sure from a field goal to field goal standpoint that he was just knocking down another one. You got these question marks again. And it's frustrating because it feels like the 49ers have done nothing but just adjust weekly to a new person in a new position. But I got to say, like, guys have stepped up on this team. Guys have filled their roles decently well. So I expect now, like with Curtis Robinson, who's stepping in for Tatum Bethune, to kind of, take that into, take that on and really challenge himself and get better. So we'll see. But from an injury standpoint, I mean, both teams got some bangs and they've got some things to work through. But I'll get into my keys here in a few minutes. What are your thoughts on like the injuries?
Honestly, what you guys have to go through is just a nightmare. Like, I can't imagine. And again, it's like you guys had such a good thing with Eddy. Things were just vibing. Why couldn't the, football gods just let things be and let Eddy cook, right? It is unprecedented, and it's gotten to the point in Niners Twitter where it's basically like the conspiracy theories coming out, all these possible reasons why or why not you guys get hurt. It's becoming like a lore, a myth, like a story all the way coming through. This will be told, not to sound over dramatic, but like this is what defines this version of the Niners, this era of the Niners. So it is something to behold. I don't envy you, and I feel terrible for you that you do have to deal with this on a weekly basis. It's insane because I watch all my games and I see things happen on occasion, but to the level I couldn't even fathom it. It's crazy.
It is, and it's been wild to cover, but it's also been kind of fun to see, what's changing from week to week, right? But I mean, again, guys have stepped up really well. I think we've learned a lot about this 49ers identity that they kind of are reshaping, and it's a lot of the same where it's like you're in the building to compete, you're in the building to be, a part of this organization, like you're going to give everything you got. And I feel like they are. So, Panthers, they're one of the lowest scoring teams in the NFL this season. They're good for 18.8 points per game, which is fifth worst in the NFL. They are the ninth best in yards per game on the ground. Rico Dowdle having a great year, even through the air as well. He's been really, really good. They're the sixth worst in yards per game through the air, which is interesting. What I'm looking at this Panthers offense, and especially like, Bryce Young seemingly to have kind of gathered his footing in the NFL. The game is starting to slow down, I think, to him, having arguably his best game last week against the Falcons. You've got Bryce Young, you've got Rico Dowdle out there, Tetairoa McMillan, who was the 8th pick in the 2025 draft. And then you've got, Xavier Legette out there. There is a nice young core going here. It's just a matter of like them doing it from a consistent standpoint. This is a team who went into Lambeau earlier this season and caught a W. This is also the same team who lost to the Cardinals earlier on in the year. So, this team right now is kind of a toss-up. Who are you going to get? We'll kind of see on Sunday. So you don't know the version of the Panthers you're going to get. The injury gaps I already talked about. You got Tatum Bethune and Eddy P. How do their fillers go this week? This is a defense that's so banged up right now. I mean, you're already soft on your edge presence. Your defensive line is taking hits because of that and more. Now your linebackers are going down from the start of the season and on. And, fortunately, the secondary, relatively healthy. The problem is there's young guys in Renardo Green, Upton Stout on that team who are, learning the ropes in the NFL still. And they're still getting cooked, it's part of learning, and it's also part of that position as a cornerback and or a DB. But because of the problems at the rushing position at the edge spots, there's so many gaps on this defense. So I expect a blowout on Sunday. I don't know where on Monday. I don't know where you're going in terms of how you think this game's going to go down. We'll get into the final scores, but what do you think about this potential shootout?
That's what I think it's going to be. I think it is going to be a shootout. I think it's going to be a really fun game. I think, they have the ability to run on you, and it's just going to be tough. Like you're going to have to rely on a lot of bend, don't break. Win when it matters, where it matters. You can force Bryce Young into mistakes. That's definitely a thing you can do. It's just a matter of is Saul going to take a little bit more risks and dare Bryce to beat him? Like, let's say if he blitzes more for some reason in this game, just to create more pressure on him, because maybe Bryce Young needs to prove it to Rob first. So maybe that's the challenge I'm expecting on Sunday for, kind of where the game will turn. I think it's if your defense can hold on enough, your offense will be able to get warmed up, get enough plays on this Panthers defense. I know the Panthers defense has been solid, but they have allowed plays to go. So it's definitely not the most stout defense either. So I think this is a great opportunity, especially for Purdy, to really go after a defense that'll present some issues this week.
Right on. So keys to win. You said it right there. Defense needs to do its best bend but not break that it possibly can. We didn't see that on Sunday against old Jacoby Brissett there, who, I mean, dude, he dogged. I mean, that was a game and a half from Jacoby, but that was a whole lot of bend and a whole lot of break too. So I need to see a little bit better from this defense. Be opportunistic. Yeah, they got the takeaways last game, but you still let them do that to you. Like, can you slow down Bryce in this offense when they're potentially in a bit of a groove? So that's number one key. Second key, offense needs to get cooking early and play ahead of the sticks and ahead of the game. This Kyle Shanahan offense, dude, it operates best when you're ahead of everything. Ahead of schedule, ahead in the game, ahead of the sticks. Like, that is when this system thrives. This system is not a system that's supposed to work when you're playing from down. That's how we've seen so many times in the Shanahan era. Like, you just go down, you're not likely to get back in these games. So George Kittle said it best a few weeks ago. This offense needs to do better. It's filling out now. I just talked about earlier on who we're getting back, who we have back already. I think Ricky Pearsall is going to have a big game this week, so keep an eye on him. He was open countless times. It's just a matter of him and Brock don't have the connection, just yet. So look out for Ricky Pearsall on this one. I'm also looking, and this is the last key, for a big game specifically from Brock and Kittle. I also don't think the Panthers defensively have an answer for Christian McCaffrey and his versatility. So this is going to be the shootout. Two of my keys rely on the offense. I think this game is going to be won solely on offense. So I'm expecting the 49ers to put up 38 points following their 40-point performance earlier. 38. I'm going to say to 24. 49ers.
Wow, I love that. That's not that ambitious, obviously, given what you guys were just able to do. And hey, Christian McCaffrey returned to Carolina. I think this is his first game back since being traded. So this is an interesting one too. I wonder if that gives him and the team a little extra juice. But I think, yeah, I agree with everything you said. This is going to be a really good test for the Niners. This is an important game. Playoff position, like it is at this point in the NFC, it is the most important thing right now and could change the fortune of a lot of different teams, of who you match up with and all that fun stuff. So for the Niners, this is huge. I see this being a high scoring game, but I think it's going to look more like 31-20 Niners.
No, that's solid. And I went super all out. I'm buying into kind of what the message around the facility has been, kind of what I've gathered based on reports and comments that players have made. And that's that, like, they recognize this seesaw that's gone back and forth now for, 5 weeks of win, loss, win, loss, win. And you want to get ahead of that. Like, this is the time to turn it around. So they're going into this week with like a solid approach. And I'm just thinking in my head, like, you're in Levi's, crowd's going to be rocking. You're coming off of a win. This is entering playoff territory football. this could be a playoff atmosphere. I'm just expecting this Niners team to come out and do a lot of what they did to the Cardinals.
Heck yeah, I love that. So with that being said, any final thoughts before we head on to the Eagles? All right, so let's take it on to Philly, the Birds, coming off a wonderful, wonderful win against the Detroit Lions. At least it was wonderful to me, but apparently to everybody who freaking watched that game, it was the worst thing they've ever watched. The Eagles offense was unbearable. The Eagles defense was fun, but the game sucked. So before I even break down just like little bits from this game, I want to talk about I want to throw it to you and just from the outside perspective, how was the game? Because you watched the game. So how was the game from your view?
I mean, I was hyped. I mean, I was coming off 49ers W, so I was going into this game like I had said last week, like I was pulling for the Lions. I thought the Lions would expose some weaknesses that other teams hadn't been able to do. And I was completely proved wrong. I'll start with that. Like, the Eagles defense is nice. I think y'all are finding a nice rhythm at a nice time. And this defense it's been solid. It was just like your cornerback position was questionable. And then at the trade deadline, getting Jalen Phillips, I think that's completely solidified this defense as definitely elite. You could argue top, like close to top again. So I liked what I saw from that Eagles defense, but it's the offense, bro. I genuinely do not like watching the Eagles operate offensively. And I think it's probably more Patullo than anything, but I couldn't stand it. So from that standpoint, like seeing y'all win the games, with 10 points or whatever, in this game, it was frustrating at the very end with that, pass interference. I'm not going to say that wasn't necessarily. I'm not going to come on here and say that, the refs were the reason why this game ended that way. I think Philly defense would have had to do more of what they're already doing. But overall, man, I thought it was a good game. It was fun, but I don't like that offense.
And that's been the story around Philadelphia, has been the offense. So much so that so if you haven't checked out either of our post games, go check them out in our feed. I thought they were bangers this weekend. I thought it was for the Eagles game. I just thought it was so interesting that I kind of figured there would be a lot of negative discourse after this win, and I don't blame them. But the defense, just to give them one last credit, the Eagles are the first team in NFL history, for those who don't know, first team in NFL history facing a starting quarterback who had completed at least 70% of his passes that season coming into the game, and then hold them to under 40% for a game. So that QB being Jared Goff, had his worst game of his career, arguably, in terms of completion percentage, all that fun stuff. Awesome. Eagles defense. The Jalen Phillips trade, how he could not have hit anymore. And that's the thing. Everyone's like, oh, why do we crown him? And it's not because it's not like he doesn't take risks that whiff. Like, he has some guys that don't work out. But Tank Bigsby's playing a role. Jalen Phillips is playing a role. Some of these guys are hitting. And his draft picks, Jahad Campbell and Andrew Makuba, were both starters on this defense. And Makuba is now full-fledged, and Campbell's in the rotation. Like, he's doing a great job. So he's hitting on a lot of things, and there's a reason where we're at. I'm confident in this defense. But the offense is the conversation. Because I agree, both things can be true. I believe that the offenses could be less vanilla, more bland, less bland, and have some creativity to it, because it seems the prevalent theme is how obvious and predictable the Eagles offense is, to the point where guys know what routes they're running. So Ben and I were taking some tweets back and forth, but I sent him one today because he sent me one from the same guy, Eagles Eric, Eagles X's and O on Twitter. But the Eagles are, despite being the 30th in the NFL in routes ran by receivers, they have the second most ran hitch routes in the NFL. So when the Eagles throw, on one of every 4 plays, the Eagles receivers are running a hitch route. And it's becoming so predictable now, where you watch Rocky Sin and Amik Robertson lock down Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, not because they're talented, not more talented than them, but because the Eagles are so predictable that it's not setting their guys up for success. And that, when you look at the game film, people were saying, hey, that's not all Jalen Hurts. That's not like he had 14 and 28. Like, there wasn't separation. They had the stats on, Devontae and AJ. Like, this was their game with like the least amount of separation that they've had. They were the Lions guys, to give them credit, were winning. So there's an element of like AJ slowed down on one play. Devontae had a couple drops. Dallas Goedert had a drop. Like, it wasn't the best game for the Eagles guys either. So they didn't help themselves. So, like, I agree that this offense needs to have more buttons to push. But I also will argue that we've had this conversation now. And I think when I say that, I think people think about 2023, but that's not what I'm referring to. I'm referring to 2024, when we were having these exact same conversations about Kellen Moore, and we were having this exact same conversation about this Eagles team. I get the main difference is Saquon isn't rushing for 2,000 yards this year, but like, and I know that's not like a little deal. That's a huge deal. The rushing defense, yeah, like I get that. I do get that. But despite that, I just never feel like when I watch the Eagles, and obviously I'm a homer, but I never feel like any game is out of control. Like, there's always something that we can do to get back in this game. And I know it's not as simple as turning on a switch. Like, and I know that's been described in that world as like, oh, you guys think you're going to flip a switch type of thing. And I do think there is a little bit of that, but like, what the Eagles are elite at, and I want to credit Shil Kapadia from the Ringers Philly Special. I wanted to throw these stats at you as an emphasis of, everyone thinks the Eagles, what are they elite at? Everyone's like, oh, the tush push. Maybe not right now, but, tush push. Mm-hmm. And they would think Saquon, the O-line, the defense that Howie created. But one thing they have been elite at recently has been not turning the ball over. And part of Jalen's passive style, I think there's enough evidence of it now to believe that this is coached into him. This is a coaching decision as well for Jalen. Like, sure, you don't want to take those risks, but I think he's being told not to throw in those spots. Hey, if you're not feeling it, hold it, take a sack. I understand taking a negative play, but it's not a turnover, right? So this is from the Ringers Philly Special. Over a 31-game sample over the last 2 years, the Eagles have turned the ball over on a league low 5.1% of their offensive drives. For context, the league average is 10.6%. So they're half the league average in terms of turning the football over during that stretch. They're 26-5, including an undefeated in the playoffs and a Super Bowl victory. And this included a top 5 most difficult schedule entering the season. And they've won 84% of their games this way over the last 2 years, playing this way. And not even when we talk about Jalen at one point, 2% of all of his snaps this year have been turnover-worthy plays. So he's not putting the ball in harm's way at a historically low rate. And because the Eagles aren't turning the ball over, there's another stat to complement this. When the Eagles outright win the turnover battle under Nick Sirianni, they are 40-2. They win 98% of their games. So who are we to say that they're wrong in their method of winning games? What if this was the identity all along? And that's what the other side of the argument that I firmly believe, and I know that it's this has kind of been the talking point of Philly media, Philly sports, Philly fans. It's like one side or the other in kind of this situation of like, let the Eagles do what they do and enjoy the fact that they've been winning and playing this successfully. Like, so what if Josh Allen had 6 touchdowns? Like, that's super cool. Like, congratulations. That's awesome. You guys won the game too, even better. But it's like, you do all that only to sell in the playoffs. You have a team that has made it to the Super Bowl and almost won the first one, right? But, we were a fumble away, right? So that's turnovers is just a thing that this team wants to avoid. And I do believe, and I think they believe, that if they do that, they have a chance to win every single game. And I know it sounds simplistic, but they're elite at it. 40-2. Like, that's elite. So that's kind of my, like, I feel like it's semi-arrogant. Like, I feel pretty good about this team, especially with the defense playing the way they are. We've seen this offense explode. These past 2 weeks. What happened 2 weeks before that? When Jalen Hurts had a perfect passer rating with 3 touchdowns or 4 touchdowns against the Giants. Oh, yeah. Or he didn't light up the Rams in the second half. He didn't, I don't get, we had this exact conversation last year. I was like, Jalen Hurts can win you a Super Bowl. And he's done it. And now we're back here again, which is the part of the business. I get it that we're back here. But it's funny how people want to pull up 2023 as a reference when 2024 literally disproved 2023 in the sense of yes, the collapse can happen, but the Eagles can also win a Super Bowl. We've seen them win this way. So that's been the whole story and that's my perspective on this. And there's more to talk about, but I want to throw that to you. What do you think of that?
I think you great job. Really great job. Now I have to follow that up. So, I think what people want, the reason you see a lot of this hate isn't because you guys are winning. It's the method by which you're winning. That people are like, this isn't my team's method, or this isn't the method I would take or that I enjoy watching. Therefore, it's not right. They need right now a quarterback to go out there and win all their games. And they need them to be the one who shines and explodes and has these awesome seasons that takes their team all the way, right? That's how the NFL has been advertised for years. That's how, when you think as a football fan, you think of a team, what's the first person you really think of most of the time? It's a quarterback. So I think people expect a certain level of play from a quarterback on a winning team. So because Jalen Hurts isn't utilized, and I'm saying utilized, not as good, I'm saying isn't utilized in the same way as a Josh Allen, a Patrick Mahomes, a freaking Mac Jones, and a Brock Purdy all of a sudden. In utilization of the pass game, you see this mixed approach from the Eagles. They don't also want to, credit Jalen Hurts for his 8 coordinators, offensive coordinators that he's had to. We won't get into that though. It's wild because they're winning football games, but people don't like the way that they're winning football games. So it's not right. And therefore your quarterback sucks. And that's the approach it comes from. My side of it is I hate watching y'all operate offensively because you have the weapons you do. And because of that stupid stat you just told me about the egregious amount of hook routes that they do. That is an underutilization as hell for an Eagles offense that is as talented as it is.
It is a form of malpractice. The problem with this too, and that's been the diversifying topic too, is it feels obvious in a way that it's it feels everyone's oh, this is the the normal pick to go for, right? But Patullo, he's shown us kind of very similar to what we saw with Brian Johnson, no answers. Kellen Moore at least had the ability to adjust, and even if it was a little simplistic, he at least had the basics down. The Eagles don't even have the basics down. Things that that's the one thing that the Eagles, if they even utilized the basics 20% more, mesh routes, more stacked, they would have the ability to play just fine. But part of me also wonders is how much of this is them really just trying to play as few of their cards as possible before they hit the playoffs and have those go-to plays that they plan on seeing. And I also think that they played a super hard schedule, right? We talked about that. They played the 8th easiest schedule, 5th easiest in terms of defensive DVOA. So this is an opportunity, and I brought this up on the postgame. This is an opportunity to find that offensive groove again, and that's exactly where we were a year ago. They played a couple crappy games, and then they played crappy against the Panthers. Oh, what are we complaining about passing? And then they beat the crap out of the Steelers, and Jalen pops off. It's not we've seen them do it. So I don't understand why everyone questions oh, can they do it? How many times do you have to see them do it? That's the part that is that's the funny part to me. It's the Chiefs, everyone, and I get it, they've won all the Super Bowls, but it's also there's an element of people who are just oh, oh, it's assumed the Chiefs are always going to make the right decisions, or they're always, they're not worried and things like that. Oh, they don't have to prove it to us anymore. They have Patrick Mahomes, and that's probably the main reason. But the Eagles do the exact same thing, win very similarly, and it's just like, oh, how did they keep getting away with it? So, and then when we get to the Jalen Hurts of it all, and then that'll wrap up this conversation. It involved Jalen Hurts. Part of this conversation this week was media pundits. Well, apparently people well connected in the Eagles world, and I don't discredit any of the people who said this, but Derek Gunn is the guy in the Philly media who kind of brought this to the attention of like, oh, what if this is just Jalen Hurts' fault? And I'm just paraphrasing. I don't have the exact thing here, but it's basically like, what if this is Carson Wentz 2.0, where Jalen's in more control than we think, and he's just like my way or the highway, and it's rubbing teammates the wrong way, and teammates aren't. There's reports that apparently they're complaining about them when no one's said a thing about it. And Jalen was asked that. A lot of that's been the talking point of the week has been, is this Jalen's fault? How much of this is on Jalen? And I understand from like the play part, he's the guy who touches the ball every play. So like, that's why, I understand the conversation around him and like compared to other quarterbacks, but like he does the job that we ask him to do every week. And that's always what he's done. And that's just how he's wired. And I'm not worried about like his stat to me is winning, which is crazy to think. Cause like I never have to, I not say never, but like I trust him now, what he is now. These past few years more than I've ever felt like I could trust him before, and he's just been so reliable. He's been Mr. Reliable. All they do is win. And he's had a stacked team behind him, and they could be doing more, but I do think this part is Patullo. So I do think Jalen, I think this part can be coached out of him again if he had an offensive coordinator who was like a Shanahan style, let's focus on timing, trust that your guy's going to be there type thing versus wait for the hitch, wait for the curl, wait for the one slant we do or the path where we have two guys running in the same spot. The offense needs to look better, but it doesn't have to improve. So like they don't need this drastic improvement to win the Super Bowl. They can blow up in the games that they need them to. That's my final point on that one.
No, I agree. And yeah, I think a lot of this, all of this has to do with Patullo. And that's like, when I say I don't like watching you guys play football offensively, it's solely because of that guy. It's not, it can't be AJ, it can't be Saquon, it can't be Jalen, it can't be, it just, the thing is that is too much talent to be utilized the way it is. And like, that bugs me. That's not why I fall into the same category. I don't think like, I agree where you come from. I think if you're winning, why would you change that? And that's all the Eagles have been doing is winning. Like, people are looking for reasons to discredit every single win that you guys have. My thing is I'm not discrediting it. A win is a win. You earn that shit. But like, I just want to see more. I want the Eagles to blow up offensively. I want them to have these killer games and be this seriously unstoppable force. I don't want them to play every game tight until like a couple plays break loose and Patullo gets off his butt. I don't know.
Yeah, and the problem is now, and that was the other thing too, people were so divisive on it. They were like, oh, I wish there was people on the Eagles side of things saying, like fan-wise that I was seeing, and maybe it was just an overreaction, but they're like, oh, I wish we lost more so then we would have had a reason to get rid of Patullo. Maybe they would have made a change. They're ignorant because of the wins. I mean, it's been this way for a while, guys. Like we haven't been like insanely dominant since 2022. Like we were dominant last year, like in terms of being able to run the ball on anybody we wanted to and closing out games that way. And I know that's the element that's missing. Like, but we've seen the glimpses. We've seen that it exists. So like in a 1-game setting when we're winning playoff atmosphere games every week, like it's like, I think we're still going to continue to get tested. And let's start with the first test here with the Dallas Cowboys game. It's Dallas week. We love it. And I think that it's on the road. I don't think it's on the road in Dallas. It's going to be the 1:30 spot our time, so we'll see if the sun is going to be right in their face or not during the game. That was an impact. That was one that impacted one of the games last time they were there. But this is a completely different Cowboys team than we saw in week 1. And in a way, this is a different Eagles team that this Cowboys is seeing since week 1 as well. This is a battle of, I think for me, just simply put, strength on strength. The Cowboys' strength is their offense. The Eagles' strength is their defense. Which weak link is going to show up more? Will the Eagles' offense, who struggled, Jalen Hurts was playing a lot of hero ball week 1. AJ Brown only had 2 catches. Like, he was blanketed. That was the game where they just played zone the whole game. And they had no answer for it. And Jalen was creating a lot with his legs. First game without Micah, so there was a lot of disarray there. This is a much improved Cowboys defensive line. So, I don't want to be one of those. I love the rivalry. I love the Cowboys rivalry. But, out of the teams that we have played, in this division, the team that I respect as a serious team when we go up against them is the Cowboys. They always give us the biggest fight. They've been the heavyweight. From my time watching the Eagles, they've been the team that has given us the most grief. And I think that Dak, he is 6-1 against the NFC. He's 21-2 against the NFC East as a whole. 6-1 against the Eagles at home. So the last loss was the last time the Eagles came there, though. So that'll be an interesting spot. But it's just I'm excited to see what this defense can do. I think this is a great test. They played the Packers, the Lions, and the Cowboys. 3 explosive offenses in their own special way. And this was going to test their verticality. Adoree Jackson got cooked week 1. But this is a completely different adjustment. It's week 12. He's back. He's played. Yes, he's sat out a couple games, but he's been the guy. And nobody else has played better than him. And he's had some pretty solid moments. He's at least starting to become capable. I don't know how much that's going to matter against the dynamic duo of Pickens and CeeDee Lamb, who are playing on top of their game. I think it's going to be an interesting game. Before I get into more of the breakdown, what are you looking for in this game? What are you excited for?
I'm just interested for the round 2 matchup between you guys. Beating the Cowboys is always a blast. So, I'm kind of jealous because I wish the 49ers could go out there and beat the Cowboys, but you guys do it for us. Everything you said is true, especially that these are 2 completely different teams. This Cowboys defense, even just from Monday night, getting back DeMarvion Overshown. That's a dude who blew up his knee almost entirely. He blew out his MCL, ACL, PCL. I think his meniscus was fine, but he blew those up, tore those, had to get surgery on all those. That was December 10th, by the way, which was a week or 2 after Brandon Aiyuk went down with his ACL. And he's already back. It's interesting. Anyway, so they're getting that piece back, and that defense looked pretty good last week. Mind you, the matchup, not the best matchup, but this is a defense who looks like they're finding a groove. And that's what I'm curious to see too, is are the Eagles going to settle back and kind of play to the Cowboys' strengths defensively, because they can stay in front of you if you're running the same routes. So that's kind of what I'm looking for in this one. It's a little bit of a change up from the Eagles side of things offensively, but that defense, you guys should be able to handle Dak, Pickens, and CD no problem, I think.
Well, yeah, on the defensive side of things, what happened week 1 was, the first era of Spitgate, and Jalen Carter got ejected from that game right away. And that was a big deal at the time. Javonte Williams, nobody knew what was going to happen week 1, and they were able to run all over us, and he's been a focal point this whole year. So it's just an interesting point for this Cowboys offense is, yeah, they're going to be able to attack our corners, but will our front four with Jalen Phillips and Jalen Carter entering the fray, and Nakobe Dean, who also was out week 1, they're facing a completely different defense too. They're facing the best version of this defense, and the Eagles defense has shown that they're up for the task against high-powered offenses. So I am really excited to see if they can get Dak under pressure, if they can force the issue. And I mean, the Cowboys had like 5 drops last time they played us. I understand that it's at the confines of home. They win a lot in Jerry World. That's also where I give them like kind of a, not the edge, but like I give them an advantage in that sense. The Eagles are only 3-point favorites. Like this is a 4-win team, but it just shows that, at home, the Cowboys are always a threat. So I will give them that in that aspect. I think if we talk about keys to the game, it is going the first key is going to be this offense. Like this Eagles season has kind of been defined by the defense dictating the offense's pace. If the Cowboys score first, if they score right away, for example, let's say the Cowboys get the ball first and they score 7-0. The offense isn't going to, I think the first drive it'll still be like run first, maybe run oriented, and then probably be 3 and out, then they'll punt it, and the defense gets a stop. Then they'll have to come back with like a legit response, like show we have some life, or we're going to really have to rely on our defense the whole game. Like they can't put themselves in that game against the Cowboys. This offense needs to at least have a basic, like they need to put up a baseline of just like, hey, if we can score 3 touchdowns in this game, if I think the Eagles get at least 21 points in this game, that they'll be able to seal the deal. Like the Cowboys will get theirs, but they can get theirs and you can still get yours. Your defense is better. Like you'll be able to handle that if you just take care of your end of things. The Cowboys are going to make things difficult. They are now healthier. They have Quinnen Williams to the fold, and they added a lot of dudes back. Like, this is a refreshed defense, and they're emotional. They dealt with the death of Marshawn Nealon. Yes, last week was their first game without him, and the Raiders did a wonderful tribute. This is the first game at home since that happened. There's definitely going to be stuff going on for them. It's definitely going to be an emotional. They're going to be able to ride, and then that sounds terrible, like as like a reason, but like they're riding the emotion right now, and they're already. You mix that with the desperation, they still have a chance for the playoffs if they just find a way. They can still control their own destiny. They're a desperate team, so we're gonna get this. We're gonna get the best punch, and it's gonna be a tough environment. So the offense needs to show that they're up for the task, and I believe they can do it. But I believe when other people talk about this game, that's going to be the thing is, oh, I don't believe this offense will show up. The Cowboys defense is improved, just kind of like what I said here, only use that as a reason to believe why the Eagles won't be able to get the job done. I think they will. When we talk about the second key, this defense needs to make life difficult for Dak. They did that in a way in game 1 and forced him to be not perfect. And you can do that with Dak. But Dak is a streaky QB, but he's just coming off of an insanely hot game against a not-so-great defense. We saw what happened to the Lions, who were the number 1 scoring team in the NFL, coming off of a hot game against a bad defense. That's not the benchmark for everybody, but you can ride that high. And the Cowboys can get punched in the mouth. But I know that they, especially with Dak leading the way, are not afraid. So this Eagles defense needs to show just how different they were from week 1, and I think they're going to be able to have plenty of opportunities to do that. The Cowboys are going to try and establish the run. Schottenheimer likes to do that. This Eagles defense with Nakobe Dean leading the way on the back end with Bond, with Campbell, there's a lot of guys to throw there now, guys. So I think that they're going to be able to stifle the run, dare Dak to beat him, which is a tough spot to be in, but I think that they'll be able to make enough plays, force a turnover, win the turnover battle. That's the final key. Just do what you do best and win the turnover battle, which is a guaranteed win at this point. So if you do that, take care of business, force Dak into a mistake, you'll be just fine. So I think the Eagles have a great chance this week. Before I give my score, any final, analysis on this game or what your score would be?
No, I think you nailed it. Honestly, I'm excited. This is always a fun matchup in Jerry's world. It's always fun to kind of watch these two teams dog it out, and it's kind of you want to call it a toss up, but obviously based on the history in that building, we'll kind of see how this goes. I've got the Cowboys losing to the Eagles. Let's see. I was trying to nail a score. I'm gonna say 21-17 Eagles.
I like that. I was going to say, if I agree that like this is just going to be, it's the my favorite divisional matchup every year, just because I know that it's always going to be a super competitive game. Um, I always love the opportunity for the Eagles to win in Jerry World. They're wearing the Kelly Greens. That's going to be fun. So I guess the Kelly Greens are on all the divisional games this year. So um, I'm excited to see that the Eagles are going to look good while beating the Cowboys. The last time we played them at home, we were wearing the Kelly Greens as well when Tanner McKee lit them up. And I know there'll be calls for that if Jalen Hurts has another bad game here, apparently. So, but I think that the Eagles are it's going to be an intense game. It's going to feel like a playoff game because of the desperation. It's a primetime spot in the middle of the day. Like, they get that opportunity here. I think that the Eagles win, but I do think it's going to be close. I think they're going to win by the skin of their teeth, and it's going to come down to either the turnover battle or Nick Sirianni making a coaching decision that Brian Schottenheimer chokes on. I think it's going to be situational or it's going to be turnover-wise, but I think the Eagles will win this in a close one, 24-21, and seal the NFC East this year.
Love it.
All right, so that's enough football. We got to talk, whether we like it or not, about the Sacramento Kings. So we will be right back. All right, we are back to talk some Sacramento Kings, who coming off of their, seventh straight loss now to they just lost to the Oklahoma City Thunder, 113-99. First game of back-to-back without Domas. But we have to talk about the Kings in a good way tomorrow because Keegan Murray finally returns to the fold. His first action. Don't know what it's going to be in terms of like minutes restriction, things like that. But this is good news. Now, Domas was out this game against the Thunder. I wonder if he was questionable, so I feel like because it was the first game of back-to-back that we might be seeing him tomorrow too. So there's a very good chance we get kind of our first look at what the new starting lineup can look like moving forward, and kind of maybe potentially get an idea of what the heck this bench rotation is going to be moving forward. So maybe the lineups are going to solidify a little bit. So what is how you feel about Keegan returning? Are you excited about that? I mean, I'm sure you are, but like, what are you looking forward to in Keegan's return?
I'm just looking forward to seeing him again. I mean, seeing some defense and some effort out there. The biggest thing for me is I asked you like who your untouchables kind of were and who you would like 3 guys you would take forward to build the rest of your roster around. And we said it was Keon, Nick Clifford, and Keegan Murray. And now that you're getting like one of those core pieces back, who we just paid him money to, like just gave him a contract, he's here for now more years, like he's got a solid future ahead of him as obviously a key piece of this team because he's the only wing we really have. It's exciting. I think that he's going to bring a level of like, defensive, just rotation based play that we haven't had all season long on that side of the court. And offensively, if he can get back to, what he was rookie Keegan year, awesome. But keep in mind, he's coming off of a thumb injury. So I think his jumper will probably take time, but just having that defense back, I think is going to help a ton. At least maybe help us not give up 140 points as many times as we have so far.
Yeah, that's true. And his size, I'm excited to have his size. It provides more combinations. It doesn't make us so small. So now you can play him with Isaiah. I don't know why I said Isaiah Stewart. Precious Achua. Sorry, they remind me of the same style. But like those two, and then you got Domas. Especially if you're getting him tomorrow, I'm just really curious to see how that matchup lines up against Memphis. So I don't know how much more we can really iterate about this team, but I think what's important is for the optimistic folks out there, because we got to do some optimistic here. We're only 2.5 games back now after the loss from 10th place. We're still very much in this, and we are a few game win streak away, winning 5 of our next 7 kind of streak away from being in the picture, making some noise, fighting, jostling for position. So let's look at like this upcoming schedule here. And I just want to, I kind of want to get your take because we're calling this the lighter part of our schedule. I think you texted me and you were like, we have the third easiest schedule remaining right now as it stands. And I thought that was just interesting. When we look at the schedule, we just played the Thunder, right? So we got the Grizzlies tomorrow, or today when this comes out. Saturday, we got the Nuggets. Monday, the Timberwolves. And that Wednesday, the Suns. We've already played these teams, right? What about that is easier, right? And then we get the Jazz and the Grizzlies. There we go, right? Okay, cool. Then we get the Rockets, the Heat. The Pacers are bad. They're actually really bad this year. Maybe Tyrese is actually good, right? Then we get 2 games. Then we get 2 games against the Blazers, another game against the Rockets, and the Pistons and the Mavs. I really only see, like, if I'm being optimistic, I really feel like there's like 5 wins in there. But this is probably biased for what I've seen now. But like, how confident are you that we can right this ship a little bit? Do you think it will be just as simple as Keegan puts a Band-Aid on a lot of these rotations, because now we can use him with Keon and use him with Neek and finally get an idea of what, kind of defensive combinations we can do? And like, we didn't even mention that Schroeder's been moved to the bench full time. So like, do you think those kind of changes would make a difference for the team?
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to it. This rotation has been interesting to start the year. You got to figure out, this is in a lot of sense and purposes, this is like a brand new roster. Like, there are so many guys who are learning how to play with each other. Both of your main facilitators are new to your team. Like, there's so much meshing that this team had to do, regardless of roster construction, just from a new player to new player standpoint. De'Aaron Fox, when we played him the other night, he even made a comment because they asked him about like what it felt, to play him, and he was like, I mean, I'm paraphrasing. This is basically just another game, because like all these guys players and coaches weren't really who my teammates and coaches were. So it's from a standpoint of like, now you get all your health back. You have your core guys back, whether they're who you envision as your future core guys or your current core guys. You have your core there. Now you can solidify a rotation. And I've actually liked what I've seen from Dennis off the bench. Like, since he's come off the bench, he's been a factor, not just somebody who spot fills for 27 minutes a game and has 3 assists and 3 turnovers. He was struggling, but coming off the bench, there's like a new form of Dennis that we're getting. And I love that. And I like Russ starting as well. I think there's an energy to the starting lineup, but there's just no cohesiveness with this unit. So that's what I'm hoping for is when Keegan comes back on Thursday today. I'm looking forward to seeing what his minutes look like, what the rotation really looks like, who we rely on from a second unit standpoint at that point. And that kind of thing is going to be important going down the stretch. Because if it works, yeah, this is a tougher stretch that we just talked about. But then the back half of your schedule is so much lighter because you've already played all these teams so many times. So I'm just thinking, like, you find a rhythm and you kind of stay 2.5 games back. I know you're on a 7-game losing streak right now, and it might not end tonight. You could find yourself in a scenario where you're jostling for a position in a play-in with home court advantage if you play your cards right and just figure some things out. So we'll see. But I guess I am a bit excited for this stretch to see with Keegan.
I will admit that Dennis moving to the bench has been a good move. And I thought that was a move that needed to be made. It's a shame, again, we're put in the position that we're in. But at the same time, I think Doug he's starting to understand a little bit of how he wants to use the guards. Obviously, there's just not enough minutes for all the guys that we have. And, maybe that will get shored up during the trade deadline, maybe, if we're sounding optimistic, I guess. But there's still a lot of movement. That's also part of this. Like, I really want to try and just remind myself that this is going to be a completely different team, probably a calendar year from now. And I'm trying to find the moments where I can watch the players I really want to watch the most and enjoy it. And I think Keegan puts us in that spot because I enjoy watching Keegan. He'll at least make us look better. Obviously, he doesn't fix all of our issues, but our biggest issues is defense and rebounding, and he can do both. So it'll be good to have his energy back. He should have his cardio. I mean, he has. It's not like his legs were busted, so he was probably able to run and stay active. So I'm conditioning wise, I think that the one thing we'll have to wonder is how is his shooting going to look. Right, that's the thing I'm most worried about. But I think his hustle, his energy is going to be there, and he I don't think he'll be instantly thrusted into playing, 38 minutes. I think you'll probably see him at like a 25, 30-minute capacity still, but he'll close the game, he'll start the game, and then, you let your other guys, mix in between. But now you have a little more versatility that's just been severely lacking, so we don't have to play four guard lineups anymore like all the time. So that's what I'm looking forward to it. 7-game losing streak is tough, especially because there have been good moments in there. And like it is frustrating, like when you watch the Kings, it's like they're like there's something there, but you never really get. But then the product happens, and you're like, wow, this is really a disappointing result. So this team is not really meant to mesh with one another. But this is I'm just curious to see what the Keegan move is going to do. But I do like Dennis off the bench. I think that he's more comfortable there. And he's always kind of been a role player. Like, he's started at places that he's gone to, but I think that, like, there was a little bit more pressure with Russ coming off the bench, and I think you feel that sometimes as a player. Not that, Russ was kind of a figure when he was in OKC too, so I just think that, part of Dennis felt that pressure, and I think it's being that second guy, there is less pressure on you, and you can capitalize a little bit more. So, do I want him in all the time? Still, no. Do I want us to, fix kind of our backcourt situation? Still, sure, but we have to wait on that. So, how many wins do I think we can get in this stretch? Is, like I said, it's probably like 5. And I'm hoping to just get good minutes from Keegan, and I want to see him, Neek, and Keon potentially on the floor at the same time. That would be fun. Like, if I get that, I'll feel, you know what? I'll deal with it. Like, I will deal with the sadness because I at least get my boys in. That's all I want really in this rebuilding year.
No, and you said it a few minutes ago, like that as a core piece of this team, Keegan Murray, you want to see those minutes. Because I agree with you. I think you said a calendar year from now, it's going to look a lot different. I think by the trade deadline, the end of it, I think we could have a potential quite a bit different looking. I don't think it'll be crazy different, but we could have some pieces missing that were here before. So I agree. Like, you want to see those minutes from your Keons, your Keegans, your Neeks. Like, these are the guys who you envision as part of your long-term future. So you want them to develop. You want them to continue to have the success on the court. So I'm looking forward to it. I kind of agree. I think 5 wins. I'm saying 6 wins. I think they find at least 6 wins in this stretch. It's tough right now because Matt George tweeted out in the second or third quarter of this OKC game that this is the 11th straight game where the Kings have fallen down by double digits. And, it's tough because you're just consistently inconsistent. Yeah. You have like a good quarter here and there, but they are good for 1 quarter, 2 quarters. I'll give them 2 quarters. I'll give them a good half. Okay. And then their entire second half is terrible, or their whatever half is awful. So it's not being able to put together a full game is the tough part right now. And I'm thinking Keegan might be able to help a little bit with that. So we'll see.
Sounds like the Eagles offense, honestly, the way we're talking about the Kings. It reminds me a lot of it, right? So there isn't much to talk about. Now it's just a matter of let's see what it looks like now with Keegan. Can he stay healthy? Can Domas find a level of I'm kind of worried about that. I think there's a load management with him. He's missing every other game at this point. This is kind of it feels like a pain management thing, and that has me worried. We have 0 size. Like, Drew Eubanks has been admirable, and same with Precious, and maybe Keegan helps. But like, that is one thing that worries me is like Domas has been missing games, Zach has been missing a game here or there. Like,
Maxime's struggling.
Yeah, Maxime is struggling, but I think Maxime will improve over time. I think that he's obviously it's because we don't have any size. The Kings did this to themselves. They could have brought in a free agent. They could have kept Nimi Keita a couple years ago if they wanted to. Look at the way he's playing in Boston, right? Like, they give up on guys too easy. Obviously different regime and everything like that, but it's just, there's some things that I am worried about, but I am excited to see Keegan. He is the main thing I'm excited for because now it will see what I'm curious to see what Doug employs. Like it's just going to be the lineups are going to be curious, and like I don't know what to expect. So I mean I'm interested to see, and I don't think that what we see tomorrow is going to define what we're going to see the rest of the year either. I think it's still going to be another 5-10 games before he can even figure it out what works best with Keegan on the floor. So yeah, I guess we'll see what happens from there. But the injuries are the main thing that I'm a little concerned with is like Domas and Zach missing time. I don't know if that bugs you at all.
Yeah, it decreases their trade value.
I'm freaking weak. Oh my God. Okay, Bet, do you have any final thoughts on the Kings or anything like that before we head out here?
I just want to see a beam again, bro. Like I don't even remember what the damn thing looks like. What color is it? Dude, come on. Like let's light the beam, man. Like I really just want to see a win. Like get this one against Memphis. You dropped all these games at home and it hurt so bad as a Kings fan. So I'm hoping for a beam, dude. I'm praying for a beam.
Yeah, we need a beam, baby. That way, if we get enough beams again, then we can get a beam for in here. So then we can light it up. We don't have a reason to, guys. It's unfortunate. It's not the case. How much money did the city pay for that? For the freaking for the beam, bro. So, it's okay. You know what? We'll see what happens. Memphis is a winnable game, so who knows? We can take care of business. All right, guys. All right. We are going to leave it there. This was episode 111 of the Behind the Back podcast. Before we do our little outro here, we will not be having our regularly scheduled program next week. Obviously, Thanksgiving week taking over. We got a lot of plans. We're busy. Got family coming over. So we just thought, hey, everyone enjoy for your family. We will have pregame clips for our football matchups going into those games. Obviously, the Eagles play on Black Friday, so that's going to be fun against the Bears. It's going to be a good matchup. And the Niners play the Browns on Sunday. So stay tuned for those. We will have those on our feed, on our shorts feed. So please feel free to check us out, that on Instagram. So with that being said, you can hit us up at behindthebackpod13@gmail.com. For all y'all watching on YouTube, the links to our socials are up above. For all you audio listeners out there, the links to the descriptions are down below. Please give us a like, subscribe, rate, review, and follow the show. We appreciate all your love and support as we continue to grow. We hope you enjoy your holiday week. Enjoy your Thanksgiving with your families. Take care of those that you love. It's that time of year, guys. Time to get fat, gain a few more pounds on Thanksgiving dinner. Before we send you off, what's your palate? What's your go-to Thanksgiving meal?
Bro, give me a big plate of stuffing, turkey stuffing. Give me turkey. Give me mashed potatoes or gravy. Give me that green bean casserole with the bacon on it. Dude, I love Thanksgiving food. And then the turkey sandwiches after, that's right. They're the best.
Yes, sir. I agree. Turkey stuffing. I love baked mac and cheese. We will throw in there. Always got to have the leftovers for sure, bro. That's sick. With that being said, guys, we hope you enjoy your Thanksgiving weekend. Thank you guys for listening to the podcast. As always, my name is Marcos Conan. Beside me here, as always, is
Benny the Jet Rats. Happy Thanksgiving.
All right, y'all. We love y'all. We will talk to you after the break.
Peace.